Welcome to Tales of Abundance. I'm Dr. John Oberg, and joining me as always, our co-host, Randy Lorensen. Randy, how are you today?
Doing great. Yourself?
I feel like a little extra energy today.
Yeah.
A little extra energy.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, you've recovered. Yesterday you weren't so healthy.
Yeah, yesterday was a mess. We can get into that some other time, but it was evident to everyone here, hopefully not to the listeners, but it was it was 100% day. Today's 110% day. How about that?
There we go.
Joining us today, Preston Smiles. Preston, I can't tell you, you might be the reason I have the extra energy today. I've been looking at the content you put on the web. We've never met before today, but super excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pumped. It's cool to be in the midst of, how do I say this without offending? Elders. You guys aren't that much older than me.
Yeah,
right?
we are. It's okay. We'll take it.
We're talking about 5-6 years. That's not that much older, but I love when someone can spar and has some life under them, where it's not just surface conversations, and it's clear you guys actually like each other, and like there's a beautiful essence in this room, and that feels good to me.
Wow. Great. We need
Boy,
to have him on
I
more
like
often.
Preston. This is the Preston Smiles episode number 1. We'll be doing number 2 tomorrow.
Okay. There you go.
This feels great.
Yes,
That's awesome. Well, we were talking before the show. I think there are so many things that I want to dive into with you. Like, you have such an interesting life, so full already, and not even at the halfway point in all likelihood. And so I want to hear about how you went on an 8-day kind of experience for yourself. But I also want to know about this idea of being a spiritual millionaire. Like, these two things both grab at me. Like flip a coin, take me one direction or the other. But let's dive right into it. Like, let's just go straight in.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap in both of those conversations, so they'll find their way to each other. But I'll start with, we were speaking off camera about how we ended up in this room together. And I was sharing with you that I did what you could call a vision quest or a vision fast, where I went into the woods for 8 days. 4 of those days, I was alone, no tent, in the middle of nowhere, with 2 gallons of water and myself and a journal. And it was one of the most transformative, life-altering things for me, for a multitude of reasons. One being, I'm an LA kid, so I grew up not in the woods, not doing stuff like that.
The concrete jungle.
Correct.
Yeah, sure.
Right? A different kind of jungle. And so there was just immediate fears that I had to overcome to be able to sit in the darkness and hear the coyotes, at night, and to be with the spiders and the ants and the things, the mosquitoes trying to murder me all night. That took a lot.
Okay,
Where were you?
Yeah, that's exactly my question. Where were you?
Yes. So I was in, what is it called? Sam Houston National Forest, the biggest forest in Texas.
Okay.
And
What time of year?
it was, let's call it March.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was wild.
Was this was there someone watching from afar? Were you
No.
supervised? Did anyone know you were there?
Yes. So there was a small group of us that went together. We all went to do the same thing. And so the first 4 days we were just acclimating and finding our spot. And so they knew the general area that I was going to be in. And we sort of mapped out, hey, you don't leave this area. And if there is an emergency, we had exact ways to contact each other and all of that stuff. But the point was to find your space and not leave that space. And so over the first 4 days, we're just acclimating and understanding where we are. And then eventually you pick your spot, or really the spot picks you. And then that's it. Now you're in.
Wow.
I'm fascinated by this. So wait, I want to make sure I heard this right. 4 days.
Yes.
Or 8 days total, but the first 4,
Yes.
no tent.
No,
Just
the whole time.
The whole time, no tent.
Well, yes. I had a tent the very first night.
Okay.
After that, they take it all away.
Do you have cooking supplies?
No,
Do you have?
there's no food.
So you're on a total water only fast, and frankly, not much water.
No.
Because
they give you 4 gallons. I only drink 2. I came back with 2 extra gallons.
Wow. I'm trying to get my head around this because I've done 1, 3, 5, 7-day fasts, but I drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Like a lot of water. I'm sure I drink a couple gallons a day.
Yeah. So for clarity's sake, the fast doesn't start until you're by yourself. So it was only 4 days for me, not 8.
Okay.
Prior to that, I'm eating beef sticks and doing things. And so the moment 5 a.m. we walk out of that camp and I go to my spot, from that point forward, 4 days, 4 nights, I had 2 gallons of water, no food, no contact with other humans.
All right. I'm more intrigued. So what's the takeaways from all this?
Oh my God, there were so many. Well, I think one of the most important ones for me was, over the years. So just to give you a little bit of backstory, in 2005, I had a heart condition come up, and out of a fear of death, I changed absolutely everything about me at some level. And what came forward was this deeply spiritual, tapped in, tuned in version of myself that then became a magnet for other people. And I became a life coach before this was a popular word, before there was Instagram, before there was influencers. And I was still in LA acting, modeling, surfing and doing my thing, but people kept coming to me and they said, hey, I knew you before this moment. And now, 6 months later, you're levitating. What are you doing? And so I started coaching and supporting without knowing that it could be a calling, right? And that turned into something bigger and bigger and bigger. And, at this point, I'm a multimillionaire and have all the things and all the toys and all that stuff. But I got intoxicated by the success. And I leaned out of the thing that got me to the dance. And I began to be much more calculated and use the king archetype and the warrior archetype more than I used the mystic. And so while I was out there, it was as if, to me, God was saying and speaking through the trees and the wind and the birds at dawn, this is who you are. You want to go to the next level? It's actually a returning home. And so the biggest lesson I got in there was to come back to the part of me that is ancient and deeply spiritual and guided and guarded and protected by something deeper than the materials of this world. And so in that moment, I became a spiritual millionaire again. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So now, as a friend of mine was a hermit. He's a Catholic priest, and he lived in a Catholic hermitage for a while. And he said one of the most frightening experiences was that when you're a hermit, the first person you meet on the journey is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really spoke to me when he said that. Did you have that moment of fear facing yourself in the darkness and in the quiet? Was it a, because it sounds great looking backwards, right? But there was hard work in those moments, I'm guessing.
100%. I've been really good at self-reflection for quite a long time. So that wasn't the fear. The fear for me was what I would be asked to do.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I knew going in, hey, you're opening up a portal again, and you might be asked to let things go. You might be asked to walk away. You might be asked to, because I've been teaching for years, elevation requires separation.
Yeah.
So, okay, that sounds awesome as an Instagram quote, but are you willing to actually separate from things that are no longer serving you? And here's the crazy part. One of the things that was spoken to and through me during that vision fast was, hey, bro, you did 10 years, no alcohol. You were basically a vegan and you were on it. And slowly but surely, you're eating bacon and drinking beer and having margaritas, and you've become sort of, in some ways, a regular person. And the two don't mix. You can't ask for something big. Big life, big challenges. And so the message was, hey, you know, to much is given, much is required. And for you and the path you're taking, it's going to require you letting go of these things that are like poison to you. And guess what? I didn't listen. I didn't listen. I was like, I love margaritas.
Ain't nothing wrong with beer. By the way, bacon's a food group. I mean, bacon wrapped bacon is one of my favorite things.
So I didn't listen for basically a year. And I went to Ibiza recently with some friends.
Oh, yeah, the home of like bacon and beer and margaritas and maybe a couple other things.
And by the time we were leaving the hotel, I started counting and I was like, I think I've had about 58 drinks in this 3 days. And I just had a moment where I was like, done. I may be done for life, but I'm definitely done for the year. And that was August. And here we are today. And, you know, I was in Vegas last week and doing all the things and it's just done.
Yeah.
And so I've slowly but surely, I'm returning home.
When was this 8-day visit to the forest? It wasn't recent.
No, it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's inspiring about that too is, you know, there's that old idiom about old dogs and new tricks, and that people can't learn it. And you know what I talk to my kids about is like lifetime learning is a thing. Like you can be a lifetime learner, you can get better and grow at every stage of life all the time. But you have to. That's a skill. You have to learn how to learn. And so I really believe now that leads me to a place where like people can change, right? And some changes are harder than others, but you're a coach, you're a life coach. So, you know, like change can be very difficult. Mm-hmm. And so you've talked about things that get in the way of that. So when you're guiding people toward whatever their path is, does everyone have a path to be a spiritual millionaire? Like, can everyone do that on a different path? And how do you define spiritual millionaire?
Yes. So in short, it's loving what is and what you have like it is the best thing that's ever occurred. To me, that's a spiritual millionaire.
No, I love that.
And that's your kids, that's your house, that's your current car, that's your current partner, that's everything. So that's why I said I became a spiritual millionaire again.
Yeah.
Because when I was teaching surf lessons, I had a moment where I was like, I'm living the dream. Like I literally get to wake up, teach these lessons, then I surf, then I play Scrabble with my buddy Josh, then I skateboard down Venice Beach, then I go read Conversations with God or whatever book I'm into at the point, and then I go hang out with whatever girl I'm dating at the time, and like I was like, yo, I'm winning.
That is winning.
And then like to know that I was winning made me a spiritual millionaire. And to me, a lot of people get caught up in numbers, right? Some people are so poor that all they have is money. And I've gotten to the point, especially when you get to the other side and you realize, okay, you could be making 30 million. I could be making 7. We both are going to fly first class.
Yep.
Okay. So, we both get a big house, right? Like what more numbers just makes me a sophisticated addict. Now I'm just chasing the next high. So I'm no different than the meth addict. It's just socially acceptable. And so it's not that we don't chase, it's where you do it from, right? Context determines the content of our lives. So my context is God, yes and thank you, let's do it. And this isn't my God. I will not make the numbers my God. I will not make the adoration my God. Because if it all went away, I'd still be dope. I'd still be such a beautiful human.
Yeah.
That's the piece to me. That's what makes someone a spiritual millionaire. And therefore everybody can be one.
So you drive through any, you know, I've been to parts of the world that are, well, we were traveling with our family to Jamaica at one point. We went to some of the harder parts of Jamaica to drive through with them because we wanted them to see that, not just the place we were staying. And they, you know, they immediately jumped out of the car and started playing with the local kids. And we had these games, we were jumping off bridges into the river and all this stuff. And the lesson we came back with was like happiness, man. Like what did it cost for happiness today? Yes. And it was a bridge and a river. And we were swimming with our shoes on, you know, it's like, and it was like that was like real joy. Mm-hmm. And so I think what you're saying is just you got to find that path for everyone. You find that gratitude with what you have. I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yep.
Okay. So spiritual millionaire. Now you also talk about there's things that can get in the way. Mm-hmm. What are the abundance blockers you talk about?
Oh, there's so many. I think one of the most important ones is not dealing with unprocessed trauma, shame, and guilt. I think that kills everybody. Unprocessed trauma, guilt, and shame. And I was doing a discovery call with someone recently, and this person was saying how, oh yeah, I've had a perfect childhood, no trauma here. And I said, okay, let's see, let's find out, right? And I explained that.
Like to meet them.
Yeah, exactly. It's some people don't know, they're like a fish in water. And the moment someone has enough awareness and how to lead them and how to do it in such a way that it doesn't feel jarring, then they can start to see what's really occurring. Because, in my workshops, we often say, that's not who you are, it's who you became. Most people identify as shy, or I'm just an angry person, or I'm just bad with this. No, that's not who you are. That's who you became. That's a strategy that you took on as a child to stay safe. And now that strategy and that mask no longer serves you, and yet you don't know how to take it off because you've been wearing it for so long. And so the fear becomes, if I take this off, what will be left? What if, right? What if I fail?
Yeah.
Right? That's an abundance blocker. What if I mess everything up? If I stop being this person? What if I take it off and it works? Then I'm on the hook.
Yeah.
And I'm more responsible. Another abundance blocker, right? Fear of success. What if I take it off and I can't stop crying and feeling, and there's too much grief and it overtakes me? Abundance blocker, right? So to me, the most important one is addressing the sort of elephant in the room of what happened, right? What happened to you, and what'd you do? What'd you do to people that you've been trying to hide? Because, we know most dudes jack off to porn. Right? That's a thing. And I like to look at the symptom, but I also like to look at the root. And if you grew up in a Western culture, there's more than likely you grew up in a household that unconsciously taught you to outsource your power. So when mommy's happy with me, daddy's happy with me, I'm getting good grades, everybody, I get the love. If I'm outside of the sort of like Christian ideal good boy or good girl, then the love gets taken away. Okay, well, I'm 4. Easy. I'll just turn into a chameleon and do whatever they want. And then because I'm 4 and 5 and 7 and 10 and 15, I can't beat my biology. So my dick's gonna come online. The part of me that the urge to merge is gonna be there. But I will hide those parts from mommy and daddy and play the game. Okay, but I can't beat it. Which means it has to come out somewhere. Oh, okay. Now I'm in the digital age where I can just get to porn or get to something that makes me feel alive. Ooh, I got my little secret over here. Well, we can judge that and go, oh, those guys are sick, and those people are this, and those people are that. We don't understand the root of it is this is a person who's never been taught to self-source their own power and feel their thump and their backbone and their masculine vibrational energy in a healthy way. So it comes out in unhealthy ways. And to me, I'm trying not to be judgy. It is not a conducive way to feel free. Again, I work with people, and I've had clients who make 100 million. And I've literally looked them in the eyes on a Zoom call in the middle of our first conversation. I'm like, you realize that I'm richer than you, right? And then this motherfucker's like, holy shit, you are, right? And it's because of your secrets. You're trapped by your fucking secrets. You realize that I know the secret. Everybody else praises you for that money, but it's not enough. It's not enough because you're not free. That, to me, There's so many people. If we walk out this door and we walk in and stand in front of 1,000 people, to me, 98% of them have guilt and shame and things that they have not addressed. They have tucked them away. And they said, nope, I won't look at that thing. I'll just be a better human over here. No, it sits in the room. It sits in the room. It sits in the space. And so you can have it all, but you don't have it all.
As a society, we choose to like treat that after the fact. And then we talk about not enough therapists, not enough whatever. But we don't talk as a society about what to do on the front end, other than things like, you know, and look, I'm not defending the porn industry at all, but I get their, I'm a pretty devout Catholic, by the way. So you're talking to the guy who, and I'm a Catholic that converted, you know, 2007. So that gives you an idea of who I am, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that like regulating this stuff is not the same as loving people into where, which is what you're talking about. It's like, that's like, you can't make a policy about this.
Correct.
Like we've got a nuclear family problem right now where people aren't loving people. And the Surgeon General is calling it out. He's like, hey, the number one health problem in the country today, isolation. And that's in the home, parents without fathers, or I'm sorry, kids without fathers, you know, policies that are sending people to jail when maybe they should, like there's all kind, but the real issue, if we say, hey, look, the policy problem is a policy problem. We know we need to solve it. We don't know how. How do you solve it today? It's finding a way to love people, right? So you've got kids. We talked about this before we started. You've got young kids.
Yes.
They're not at the place where they're quite to the place you were talking about. What are you going to do as a dad? What are you going to talk to them about?
Well, it starts now.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Like, one of my sons right now is really into his penis, right? Like just, it's out every day, 7 times a day.
Kids are all less than 8 right now. Just to give listeners.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So not talking about an 18-year-old.
Yes, exactly.
He
would be too.
Just trying to give some context, man. Your word.
yes. So these are my young kids. They're all under 7. And I got 4 of them. And one of them is just super into his penis. And we never shame him about that.
Yeah.
We say, yeah, bro, it's awesome. Right? Each of them has had a moment where they're like, it's so hard. And then they'll just keep hitting it. And I'm like, bro, yes, that's going to happen. And it's going to feel good at times. But you got to take your hand off of it if you don't want it to keep going, right? And like, to me, this is the stuff that most of us didn't get as children. You know, I have a somatic-based nervous system training called the Bridge Experience, and I've been doing it for over 10 years with my wife all over the world. And we have an exercise that we do that is very confrontive and very revealing. And I'm going to ask you guys to answer this. We've done it in Costa Rica, we've done it in London, we've done it in all over Canada, all over Australia, all over the US, done it in Africa, done it a bunch of places. What do you think the percentage is of people who have sexual abuse in those rooms?
Oh, it's a big number.
It's big. It's over 50, I think.
Yeah, I think it's probably like in all those areas, I'm going to go north of 67%, more than 2/3.
Anybody else want to guess? You want to guess? No. Just our rooms. I can't count for everybody else's rooms. We're at 90%. It's just everybody. And there's varying degrees of it, right? There's like rape. My grandfather raped me when I was 4, and then again at 7, X, Y, and Z. And then there's like, oh yeah, me and my cousin were in the bathtub. And I was discovering my stuff, and I looked at his, and I touched his, and then my mom walked in. And she yelled and screamed and shamed us, and that imprinted the body, right? There's so many degrees. When the Me Too movement happened, I had a moment where I was like, I'm going down. I had a moment. And the interesting thing was every woman that I felt like I had done wrong in some form or fashion, and there was one in particular at LSU that we had an agreement to go to this particular bar, drink, and then come back and have, relations. And in the middle of those relations, she just fell asleep. And whether she knew it or not, there was a part of me that was like, oh, I went too far. I kept going. And it's things like that that just sit in people's consciousness.
Yeah.
That haunted me for years. And especially now that I have a daughter, it just takes on a new level of like, oh, fuck. That was, to me, it was a violation. I have since spoken to her and cleared the air and all the things. And she was like, we both were young, drunk kids going for it. But there's so many things like that that block people's abundance because they don't feel worthy of it. They feel like they must be punished for the things they've done in the past, and it just sits in their energy body and the body of their affairs, and they move around from this particular space. This is why, to me, personal freedom is the most important thing on the planet outside of health.
Well, it's hard to clean up your side of the street. And that's the language we use in my family. We talk about cleaning up your side of the street.
Yes.
You know, what are the things you think that get in the way of people cleaning up their side of the street? Because that does seem to be the hard part. Like my experience, people want to clean up they want other people to clean up their side of the street.
Yes.
And they want to tell them how to do it.
Yes.
You know, that's the whole, like the log in my eye versus the splinter in your thing.
Yes.
So it's like, what do you think stands in the way, in your experience, the most with the people you've worked with? Like, why aren't people cleaning up their own side of the street when they know it?
There's a few things. One of the biggest abundance blockers, and I have my clients do this all the time. I have them make a list of all the withholds they have with people they love. So I'll say, hey, list, the top 5 people that are important to you. You say, oh, it's my mom, my dad, my husband, my sister, my brother-in-law, or whatever. And I'll say, okay, I want you to make a list of all the things you have not shared with them that is true for you, but you haven't shared out of a fear of fighting, hurting their feelings, or it could be really beautiful and you just don't know how to say it. And they'll make
how about telling the top 5 they're in your top 5? That's vulnerable.
Yes, exactly. Right? So I have them make that list. And then once they made the list, I'll say, okay, I want you to pick one from each person that is the safest thing you can share. I'm not asking you to share, hey, Dad, I felt like you were a shitty dad my whole life. Like that's kind of hard to start with, right? But what's a safe thing that you can bring to your dad to build a bridge so that there is compassion and space, right? The other thing I have them do, one more list, is a list of all the people and things they haven't forgiven. And then we just spend time forgiving. And then I have them include themselves on that list. And we spend, 10 minutes a day just sitting with one or two of them and just like, how can I release myself from, like Jesus said when he said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how can you forgive yourself? Like, I was dumb. I was young. I had no direction. My parents didn't teach me.
Yeah.
So can I have compassion for me? And the moment I can have compassion for me, I can have it for other people. And so to me, it's about getting this stuff on the table and not pretending like it's not there. Everybody wants more money, more success, more adoration, all the things. And they don't understand that one of the fastest ways to that success, adoration, and freedom is by addressing the stuff that they've been hiding.
When you don't don't need everything you think you need right? I mean, correct. What was the research? Like if you have $100 million or $100 billion, you can't buy more. Like as long as you're willing to rent, you can't. And then $80,000, you've declining utility for happiness, everything past $80,000. So
correct.
It's such a powerful message. I didn't mean to cut you off, Randy. Sorry about that.
No, I was just, I wanted to follow. So I think there's a lot of power here. In the people forgiving themselves, I think for most people is the hardest one, right? Like they just, it's easier for most people to forgive others, have compassion for others, and deal with this. So how do you get people, like we're talking about, this is an abundance blocker, but I think this is hard for people, right? Yes. And like, what have you seen work? How do you get people to go through these steps? Because this is imprinted in our subconscious.
Correct.
And the example you gave, if the two kids playing with each other and the mom comes in, they stop doing that, or at least getting caught doing it, as a defense mechanism. And it's your subconscious saying, hey, this is what's safe. So that's hard. Like, what have you found that's worked? What do you tell people? Or
Yes.
how do people get by that?
Yes. So one of the core sort of statements and principles that I live by is you can't intervene in a world you cannot actually see. Said differently, we can't disown that which we've never owned. And so a big piece of my work is showing them how they got where they are. And there's 4 aspects of what it means to be a human being, according to me and my wife. Number 1, we're biological beings. Right? It's pretty clear. We're in these physical bodies. The bodies react and respond to our thoughts, feelings, actions, and the outside stimuli, the things we put in our body. Perfect. Number 2, we are linguistic beings, which means we build worlds with our language. Without the language of door and doorknob and room, it would be challenging to get out of this thing. But with language, we open worlds. Okay, fantastic. Number 3, and this is the one that touches all of them, and I'll just skip to number 4 for a second. Number 4 is we're quantum beings, right? There's something beyond our current understanding, which is a part of why we have religion and things of that nature, because we're like, what the hell is this, right? But let me go to number 3, because this is the one. Number 3 is we are social and historical beings. Social and historical beings, meaning we were all born into interpretations and beliefs. Born into them. So, social being, I come from a womb right into a family structure, whatever that structure is. The people in that structure have their own beliefs, ideas, interpretations. Here's what a woman does. Here's what a good man does. Here's what a X, Y, and Z. This is how you are with money. Whether we say it or they just experience it, these are imprints that are just overlaying. We're swimming in this soup. Well, we also know, biologically, scientifically, that our prefrontal cortex does not come forward until about 12 years old. So I am basically a sponge from 0 to 12. I'm just taking in everybody else's stuff. Now I'll go back. You can't intervene in a world you can't see. You can't disown that which you've never owned. So some of the biggest work is to go, okay, well, what was I born into? Because I can't beat the game if I don't understand what the game is. I don't understand. If I don't understand I'm in water, then I can't make a choice about anything else. I'm a fish in water that doesn't know. You take me out, holy crap, this is different, right? So I'm in the business of taking people out of the water that they're in and having them from an empowered place, us look together and go, okay, all right, you got the whole money story thing mainly from your dad because he was a big spender and he then lost it all, or X, Y, and Z. Okay, the whole quick to anger thing, can you see that you got that from your mom? Okay, awesome. Your idea about what a good Spanish woman is, you got from the culture, right? You went to Catholic school, so you got this idea that you are X or you were, and again, I'm not here to offend anybody. Everybody's God is perfect and beautiful, but just to sit with it, right? You got this idea that you are a dirty sinner. You were born in sin and you're bad from the beginning, or whatever the case may be. All of that is a part of your programming. Now, together, from responsibility, from adulthood, let's look together and decide what we want to keep and decide what we want to let go. The moment I have that choice, I am instantly empowered because now I have an option. Okay, all right, well, I kind of like the competitive thing that I got in sports and growing up in LA, and I'll take that. That feels good to me. But the whole like scarcity thing, that my mom sort of operated from because she was born in the ghetto and she had this experience and my grandmother had this experience and her grandmother had this experience. I'm done with that because that can only get me so far.
Now there's a step here though about self-awareness. Like you just
Yes.
went right over, like you're great and you're very self-aware, but
Yes.
I got to imagine some of your clients don't come in that self-aware.
No, I walk them through it.
So when you see something they can't see, do you just hold the line?
I ask them questions. It happens all the time. I have a boot camp called the Spiritual Millionaire Academy. Every Tuesday, I'm coaching. People will come in and they'll say, da-da-da. What? Like, for instance, I had a woman from Arizona, and she was like, why am I so bad with money? She was in her 50s. And I said, no, I'll make her name Susan. I said, Susan, let's talk about that. Let's find out. Because I don't agree with what you're saying, but let's just see. So I'm gonna ask you some questions, and then you and I discuss and figure out if you're actually bad with money. So I said, oh, hey, Susan, you're 50-something years old. How many times have you lived on the street? Well, none. Okay. Susan, you're 50-something years old. At what point in your life have you not been able to watch movies, do entertaining things, go to concerts, have a good, have an iPhone, things? Well, never. Okay. Susan, let's go deeper. You're 50-something years old. If you never lived on the streets, that means that a mortgage or rent has been paid for quite a long time. Give me a ballpark average about how much money has gone through from your account or someone's, you manifested it, to pay for you to live. Now light bulbs are going off. She's like, well, if I'm really sitting with it, at least $1 million. So Susan, I'm going to ask you again, because you came to me and said, I'm bad with money. Given that you've manifested at least $1 million to pay for rent, given that you have iPhone 78 and you have a car and all the other things, is that still true to you? Now she's having her own light bulb moments. Are you guys following?
Yeah.
So I challenge their paradigms and worldviews, but I do it as a team. It's not me versus them. It's like, that's why they're here.
It's really hard to do alone for somebody. I guess for the listeners, I'd say like, I tell people all the time, like the best professional athletes have the most coaches. The best professional musicians have the most coaches. The best actors, most coach. Like it's hard to perform at your peak without. And I had a therapist once who was great. He said, John, you can't spin around fast enough to see yourself. Like I was just like, that's amazing. And so what you're doing is you're holding up a mirror for people, right? Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yep. That's really cool. I have coaches. I have a men's group I'm in. I get challenged by so many people. Anything it's just common sense. If I want to be a firefighter, the best thing I could do is hang around firefighters. If I want to be a police officer, best thing I could do is hang around police officers. If I want to be good at business, hang around epic business people.
Yeah.
One of the biggest abundance activators is being in proximity of that which you desire.
Yeah. They say that you're the average of you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. I've heard that before. Mm-hmm. So smart. I love that.
So you didn't start here, right?
Nope.
I mean, you started as a kid in LA riding your bike to the mall, as we talked about. I mean, take us through the journey of how you got this wisdom. There has to be more there.
And maybe the journey before the wisdom too. That sounds like a fun story.
Yeah. It's been interesting, man. My parents used to argue when I think I was about 5, when they started going back and forth about whether I was special needs. They were trying to figure out if I had Asperger's or something of that nature. And I went to President Ave in Harbor City, and I think it was first grade that I maybe got 12 days into the semester, and they came and got me, and they walked me from upstairs in Miss Herkel's class downstairs. And I thought my parents were picking me up early or something of that nature. But they walked me out of the building, and they started to tell me that I was going to have a new class. And as we started walking towards the bungalows, I had a realization and no longer heard anything they said, because I realized that they were walking me to, and this is 1987, to the retarded kids class. And so I went from the class with 30 kids with all my friends to the class with the kids who have Down syndrome and Asperger's and all the different things. And there was like 5 of us. And in that moment, I died a little bit because I had this realization that I was different. And clearly the way that special needs classes were set up, especially in the 80s, was you're clearly off. And
it wasn't neurodivergent back then, that's for sure.
Correct. I interpret it as I'm dumb. And so that was like a mini death for me. And not long after, I ended up joining a gang and started smoking weed when I was 11. And I had all these things sort of circulating because I felt like I was a burden to my family at that point. Now I'm the dumb one in the family. I have a hard time learning, et cetera, et cetera. My sister's straight A's, perfect, all the things. So,
older sister?
Yes.
Yeah. So
then I become this out of the way kid. Now again, this is what we talk about when we talk about strategies. My strategy was I'll be so out of the way and have no more needs because I'm so dumb. Because I messed this up for you guys, I will make sure that I don't add anything, ask for anything, need anything. My mom would say, "Do you want $5 for lunch?" I'd say, I'm okay. Give me $2.50. I just always undercut it. Just, no, I'm good. Well, of course, that's a thing that people praise me for even now, right? This sort of generous, no need thing, but it came from a deep wound, right? Now, fast forward to 11 years old, my dad catches me smoking weed. He sits me down and, my dad had been a functional drug addict my whole life, and it got worse as life went on. And he still ended up dying from that thing that I didn't want him to die from since childhood. But my dad did a lot of really epic things, and here's one of them. So he catches me smoking weed, sends all my friends home, brings me upstairs, sits me down, and he says, "Okay, let's talk." I'm 11. He says,
and stoned at this point.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. He says, "I want you to take 24 hours and think about everybody you know who smokes weed. And then I want you to think about the life you say you want. Because if you do what they do, you're going to have what they have. You told me you want to be like Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, and that was the thing you wanted to do. But if you do what those boys on the corner are doing, you're going to have their life. So you think about it. Don't talk to me. Just go to your room." So 24 hours goes by. I'm in my room. I'm like, this dude's about to take all my toys. My bike's gone. I'm not going to be able to, I'm going to be on punishment. He's going to whoop me. Like, I am going through it in my head, but I also think about what he said. And I think about some of my uncles. And I think about some of the little gangsters on the corner. And I'm like, I don't know if I want their life. Like, genuinely, right? So he comes back and he says, "All right, what'd you choose? Because whatever you choose, I'm gonna take care of you no matter what. You're my boy. I love you." Right? No, just ninja. This is ninja parenting, because he's instantly like calming my nervous system. Because I'm in hypervigilance. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna die. Like, this is it. So he's, "I love you. Got your back no matter what. What do you choose?" I said, "Well, I don't think I want those boys' lives. So I think I'm probably just not going to smoke anymore." He said, "You know what? That's a good choice." He said, "Let me tell you something else about you. You are a leader. And you're such a leader that if everyone else is going left, but something in you says go right, you go right. That's who you are, Preston. You're a leader." So that's it. I'm like, "That's it?" He's like, "That's it. Go." I get up. He puts his arms out. We hug it out. And I leave. That was it. 11 years old. So I stopped smoking weed at 11 in that moment. Now fast forward, 15 years old. My friend Scott calls me to go do these things called runouts. One of the things my dad said to me in that time, he said, "I know you're going to be a boy and I know you're going to do dumb things, but you're such a leader that if everybody else is going left, you'll go right." That was it. That was the exact statement. So Scott calls me to go do these things called runouts, which I used to do. I've since went to every liquor store and paid what I stole. So a run out in LA is you pull up to the liquor store. We're all 15, 16, 17, and you pretend like you're 21. You grab beer, alcohol, and then you get to the counter, and then the thrill is how fast you can run out without getting hit by the store owner. So we do that. I did about 20 of them. This night, Scott calls me, same scenario. Let's go. We're going to jump in Rudy's blue Astro van, and we're going to go do a run out. We all have basketball tomorrow, but we're going to do it just for a little bit. And I could not have spelled intuition in that moment, but something said, don't go. And I literally just like a wave was like, don't go. And I was like, no, man, I think I'm going to chill tonight. He was like, what? Hell no. You going. Don't be a bitch. And I'm like, no, I think I'm going to chill. And my dad's voice was running through my head. You're a leader.
15 years old.
15.
Wow.
You're a leader. Everybody else is going left, but something doesn't feel right. You will do whatever you need to do to go in the opposite direction. So I don't go. I hang up the phone. Scott and I used to fight over front seat, shotgun, that whole thing. And they pull up to a 7-Eleven in Gardena, California. And there was a gentleman who had just got out of jail, whose partner had broken up with him. I think she was cheating or whatever the case may be, but he's sitting in his car next to the blue Astro van. So here's these high school students pulling up, and this guy's sitting in his car, and he's going through whatever he's going through, and pull up, and they're looking in, trying to figure out how they're going to do it. And Scott looks over at him, and the guy says, what the fuck are you looking at? And Scott, being a 16-and-a-half-year-old dumb kid, he says, I'm looking at you, bitch. Turns back, talks to Rudy. Emmanuel's in the back. I would have been in there. And guy gets out with a gun. Point blank. Boom. Shoots him in the head. Reaches across. Boom. Shoots Rudy. Shoots in the back. Shoots Emmanuel. Everybody shot. Scott dies in that moment. Obviously. He gets shot in the head. And my life is never the same.
Other two people shot, killed, shot, hurt.
They live.
Oh.
They live. That was such like survivor's guilt. Like it just layered for me. So I'm 15.
Oh man.
It hit me so hard that I didn't even cry.
Take us through that. So how did you hear about it? I don't want to be too, but this is, I mean, it's an amazing story.
It was tough. I went to the basketball game the next morning. I still didn't know anything had happened. As we're driving to the game, my dad had one of those. He had a 750 BMW. I was like a semi-rich kid at that time. Eventually, we lost everything, and they boarded up the house, and they took everything. He lost it. Drugs took it all. Right. But at that time, my dad had a 750 BMW, and he had one of those big giant phones in it.
Yeah.
Right? You guys are old enough to remember this stuff, right? Yes.
I'm old enough to have had a pager.
Yes. I had one too. So we get a call in the car, and he picks it up, and I could just feel the room in the car change. And he hangs up, and he says, hey, P, Scott was killed last night. That's all we know right now. Do you want to still go to the game, or do you want to go home? And I said, no, I'll go to the game and I'll play for him. I don't cry. I'm just kind of like...
shock.
Yes. Game starts, maybe 2 plays in. I go to the basket. I get fouled. I'm on the free throw line. And he just pops into my consciousness, and I just break down and fall on the ground and cry. And they run out, grab me, put me in the car, drive me. My mom was there. My mom took me because I had a stepmom at that point too. My mom puts me in her white Camry, and we drive straight to Scott's house. And this is the eerie part. And especially as a parent, this really fucked me up now thinking about it. We're driving to Scott's house, which is in the projects in Carson, California. And as we start to turn the corner, I have my window down in the back seat because we live in LA and the weather is always good. I went my window down in the back seat. I'm just sort of looking out, and we hear, my baby, took my baby. She's crying and grieving and screaming. This is blocks away. I can hear her. And as we get closer and closer, you see her and the whole community's around her and she's just losing it. Oh, this one messed me up, man. I just kind of went internal and I ended up asking my dad, could I leave that school? Because I just was in fear of everything. I'm like, I'm next. Other people had been shot and killed in my neighborhood and around, but nobody was my best friend, right? That like hit different. You hear about, oh yeah.
I don't want to blow past that. Like
Yes.
the number of people who have to say other people have been killed before,
Yes.
but now it was my bet. Like that's heartbreaking
Yes.
first.
Yes.
Like, I mean, just like, I don't want to normalize any of that.
Correct.
And other people in your school, this had happened to?
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's a thing. It's a thing. And like early, because remember, this is 80s, 90s. This is the height of gang activity. LA is not a safe place at that point, right? So you have to be extra hyper vigilant. This is why I do this work I do, because I know what it feels like to be so hyper vigilant. And now I'm gonna fast forward to the story where my heart decides we're just gonna give out, right? Because you're so stressed that as a 25-year-old, you basically are a 70-year-old right now. And I've reversed my aging by removing that level of stress and understanding what's really happening in any given moment. So I asked my dad, could I leave? He sends me to a high school in Pennsylvania where his high school sweetheart is Shirley Russell. She takes me in. I'm instantly go to this all-white school. I'm one of the most popular kids because I'm the only black male there. And I have this realization in this kid, Brad's BMW. We're going to a party, sitting in the back seat. All of their seats are like laid all the way back because that's what you did back then. We're listening to Outkast, Tupac, and Biggie, but at this point, it's Outkast playing The Wheels of Steel. I have a 40 in my lap. They all have 40s. They're smoking weed. I don't smoke weed anymore. And I'm sort of looking out the window, and I have this moment where I'm like, holy shit. These kids are doing the exact same thing as the kids in LA. But they're expected to go to Yale, and my old friends are expected to go to jail. And I sort of like pulled back. Again, you can't intervene in a world you can't see. I instantly saw the world. Holy shit. They listen to the same hip hop. They're smoking weed and drinking. They're listening to it. But the expectation is this group, this is a phase. And so I went, oh, life's a game. I got to win the game.
You saw the rules that day.
I saw it instantly.
Don't have to like the rules, but knowing them sure helps.
It changed everything.
Yeah.
Right. So now I enter back into the world with like a different lens. And now it's how do I win at all costs? So I get into college, but I still have the nervous system and the paradigm of you're dumb. You shouldn't be here. You're an imposter. Right? And a lot of people have that right now for specific things. Right? You're an imposter.
But you got into school.
I got in.
Which school did you go to?
Southern University,
Yeah.
which is an all-black college in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I ended up getting an MFA from Louisiana State University, graduating straight A's and all that stuff. So I get into
Hold on, you blow past that again. I just want straight A. Like it's a lot about narrative.
Correct. Hear this. So I cheat all the way. When I say all the way, I cheated through all of college, BA, my undergrad. I have a moment going into my master's degree where I say, okay, I just want to see if I'm not as dumb as I think I am. Because I would study my face off and then I would still cheat. Because remember, life's a game and this whole thing isn't set up for me to win. But I'm going to win at all costs because I need to save my dad who's still on drugs. I need to save my mom who's extremely stressed out and has no exit plan. I need to save my sister who's awesome but will never blow up like I possibly can. And so I have a strategy. I'm not just a college student. I tell friends all the time, I never broke a bone as a kid. Not because I didn't want to do dumb shit. It's because I was so calculated because it was riding on me.
So you're like still less than 25. Heart problems still building right now.
Yes. So watch this. The first year of college, I get a skin disease that nobody can explain. I went to like 5 dermatologists. Nobody could explain it. And the last one said, you have something called photodermitis. That's all we can do. And we'll give you some steroids. And what photodermitis meant was you're allergic to the sun.
Huh.
What was really happening, because the body remembers what the mind forgets. What was really happening was my stress levels, my entire body was on fire from stress. And the body will send signals. It'll say, hey, you don't listen, I'm gonna give you cancer. You don't listen, I'm gonna give you this. You don't listen, I'm gonna shake you awake, or I'm gonna kill you. So now I'm an 18-year-old. I have scabs and scars all over my face, this is a whole nother beautiful story, right? Because I already felt ugly as a kid. Then I'm allergic to the sun, and everywhere the sun hits, I get boils and hives, right? So now I have it all over, everywhere. Fingertips everywhere. I took 2 pictures in a span of 2 years, and I still have them, and I keep it as like a holy crap, bro. Like, if I think about my children at 18, like what I had to hold, I'm about to cry right now. It was fucking a lot. I'm 18. I'm holding all of this, the whole world in my fucking hands. They give me these steroids. I take them. I wear gloves when I'm driving. I wear hats all the time. It's like a whole thing. By the grace of God, my mom calls me. She has a moment of maybe guilt. But she calls me when I'm in college. I'm about to graduate in 3 years. And she says, hey, baby, I know you went to college for me. If you were to just do what you wanted to do, what would you do? I said, oh, I'd be an actor. I was studying journalism at the time. She said, baby, I want you to do that. I want you to do exactly what you want to do. And I will support you no matter what. So I'm 20. I'm 20 years old. And I hang up the phone. And I literally, that moment, I can see it right now. In that moment, I walked to the theater office. I'd never even been in the building. I walked in. And there's a guy named Dr. Berger back in his office and a secretary with a little thing across. And she said, can I help you? And I said, yeah, my name's Preston. And there's a part of me that thinks I'm supposed to be an actor. My mom just gave me permission. I'd love to just figure out how to audition for something. And she said, oh, well, here, we're doing a play called Love Letters. And we're auditioning for the lead role. I could see Dr. Berger in the back sort of taking me in. Here's the play. You can get the book right there. And I bought the book from them. I went, and I think it was 4 or 5 days later, I auditioned and I booked the lead role over all the theater kids, everybody, just straight to the top. Dr. Berger, his son was on Ally McBeal, Greg Gurman. And he just sort of took me under his wing and he said, I see what you are. There's this thing in Chicago. I want to sponsor you. There's this thing in Chicago where you audition for grad schools, for Yale, for NTC, for Cal Arts, for all these big schools. I want to sponsor you and send you. You have a talent and something that's different than what I see in this in this theater department. So he sets me up. I go there, I audition. I get into 5 or 6 schools. One of those schools was Louisiana State University. And all of them said, we'll give you a partial scholarship. But LSU said, we'll give you a full scholarship and we'll pay you $1,000 to teach at our school. So, okay, we don't have money. We got to figure it out. I take it. I take the scholarship. I graduate. I spend a year at LSU working in the theater department for free, not even in school, just learning. Then I get in. There's 8 of us in that graduate class. Only 2 graduate with straight A's. I decide not to cheat on anything. And I do so well that I'm like the star of LSU and I'm booking all these things. I'm doing Colorado Shakespeare Festival and I'm just everywhere. Moved to LA. This is where I'll end the story and I'll let you guys jump in. I moved to LA. I get a job at Abercrombie and Fitch. Instantly, this manager discovers me. Now I'm at Wilhelmina as modeling, and I'm in these big agencies, and it's happening. And I'm sitting there in front of Abercrombie with my shirt off, and I keep telling the girl who I'm sitting with, I'm like, my heart keeps doing this funny thing. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. It just kind of goes really fast and then extremely slow. And it just feels like something's off. And she's like, oh, did you go to the doctor? And I'm like, no, I'm black. I don't really do doctors. Right? This is social programming again, right? She says, hey, I think you should probably go. So I go to my childhood doctor and she runs a couple tests and she says, Preston, today you need to see a cardiologist. This is from what it feels like, you're at an emergency. And I'm like, today? She's like, today. So she writes a referral. I go straight to a cardiologist's office and they run some tests. One thing that they found over the days was I had mold all over my heart, which was like, what? Number 2, and this is the one that changed my life forever. He said, and then remember, this is before influencers, before healthy eating, before any of that stuff. He says, you know, as a doctor, I'm supposed to give you these pills to regulate your heartbeat. We got to figure out how to get this mold off, et cetera, et cetera. But as a concerned citizen, as a father, as a husband, I think you need to look at your diet and your stress levels. And I said, what are you talking about? He's like, tell me about your diet. I tell him. I was like, oh, I still, I eat McDonald's, Burger King, Popeyes. He's like, that's not food. I'm like, brother, man, you can't tell me that's not food. It's on the commercials. Everybody eats it. My whole family does. This is not like, that's food. He says it's not food. So I have a moment where I'm like, okay, tell me about your life. I start explaining some of this. And he says, young man, you are highly stressed out. And I don't know if this is still the case, but he said that stress, which leads to heart failure, is one of the leading causes of death. And he put enough fear in me at 25 that I walked out of that office and made a decision that I would not be on pills for the rest of my life, and that I would get under all of the lies that had been sold to me that had me like that. And little did I know that would become an entire career, and I would serve and support hundreds of thousands of people over the last 15 years from that.
Wow. So all I got to say is wow. I think it's a good time for a break.
Yep.
And we'll come back and rejoin this conversation.
Yeah, Preston, talk to everyone after the break. Thanks so much. All right, we're back. And that was a powerful, powerful first half, Preston. I think there's, again, I feel like we could have you on for 8 or 10 hours rather than the limited time we get with you today. We started by talking about some abundance blockers and what it's like to be a spiritual millionaire. You've taken us through a lot of your journey. But I think a really interesting part of your story we haven't really even touched on, maybe we've touched on it, but not deeply enough, and that is how you help other people. Like you've taken your journey and you found a way to like create a lever and a fulcrum and push people where you can say, hey, I can now take what I've learned and I can help you in terms of what you do, and forgiveness and creating hope. And so we talked over the break a little about hope. Mm-hmm. Tell us about how you're helping other people kind of create hope for themselves and for the world. We need more of that in the world.
Yeah, I think it's just to sort of go back to it. All day, every day, we are being marketed to believe in lack, limitation, and scarcity. All day, every day. And so what I do when people come into my space is I create enough spaciousness with the voice in their head, which we call the inner roommate or the inner critic, and the invisible opponent. We're talking some deep stuff here between even those two, and the social and historical programming that created those two things. So I'm constantly helping them and creating spaciousness. Okay, my mind tells me I'm so fat, I'm so dumb, I'm so stupid, I messed up again. Why am I here? I'm in my 30s, I'm in my 40s, and I'm still struggling, X, Y, and Z, this debt, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the stuff is saying, I help them create spaciousness with that voice so that they can go, this is not who I am. This is the voice of marketing. This is the voice of the machine that wants to keep me striving for the next thing, that next carrot that will partially satiate me. It's like eating the menu instead of the food. And I think a lot of people are fed up. That's why they even come to me. Any program I have, I say, you must be nuts. Because for you to come to someone like me, I'm a very direct, heavy-handed, straight to the middle type of person. Very loving, but also we're not going to do fluff. And fluff is awesome and important, but that's not my lane. My lane is shake your tree with your help so that all the stuff that does not belong to you falls off and your tree is healthy and pruned. Because I say, and this is true for me, spirit can only do for you what it can do through you. So our job is to become the most available lighthouses possible so that all our desires can come true, because this whole thing at some level is stupid and meaningless. You're going to die. We all do. Everybody you know is going to die. Your dog's going to die. Your cat's going to die. Everything's going to go away. And before that date and that moment and that minute, how much of life can you take by the horns and actually feel it? And most people are so entrenched in trying to get there that they mess around and get to that last minute, that last moment, and go, holy shit. You know, this is a really hard story. And I'm reticent to share it, but I do want to share it. And I just won't use her name. I have a student who recently died, she was a close student. And she decided that she was going to take a pill with her partner before 2025 happened. So she sent her kids to her mom's house, and she was going to do this one last pill to feel good and party with her friends. And her brain hemorrhaged and she died. And now, 2 years ago, I coached her through the grief of losing her husband. So the kids lost their dad. 2 years later, mom doesn't know that she's going to die from this innocent thing that a lot of other people do, and she dies. And so for me, I had been already talking to her and all my students. It's going to come. And it's not going to come when you think it is. Just imagine if there was a clock right here and it had as many, the hours and the days. And when that thing is at 0, you're done. And it'd be nice if we're all 89 and laying in bed holding our partner's butts. But more than likely, it's going to be some stupid shit that you don't want to happen. And so to me, I'm the reality check. I'm the when I found my way to Preston, that's when I wanted to actually live in abundance. Not just get things.
Yeah.
I want to feel abundant. I want to be alive. I want to cross those bridges. I have a client right now who grew up in a Chinese culture. Chinese culture is about success, achieving. Oh, you're the firstborn son. You have to be this. And I say, bro, how does it feel to not really know your dad? He's like, when I let myself feel it, it hurts. And I said, how do you think it would feel to build a bridge and to share some of those withholds? What do you think the gift would be? And he spoke about it for himself. And I said, now speak about it for your dad. Because your dad had a dad and a mom and a culture. Do you think it would feel good? Do you think it would feel good for him to feel his son reaching across that divide? Do you think he wants to? Yes, he wants to. Do you think he knows how? No, because it feels like Mount Everest to him. Okay, so then you've been passed the baton. And the baton is, yes, for your kids and the future generations, but it's also to look back at your dad and go, thank you. I see you. You fucked up, but you also did a lot of good. I love you so much. That moment when I was 12 and I fell and you picked me up and you kissed me and you said you loved me, that meant the world to me. Right? What does that do to a man whose heart has been hardened? I think you guys get this because you are these kind of men. But like, again, I hang out with really rich people, and I always feel like the richest in the room because of this stuff, not because of what's in my bank account. So my work is the like, let's do the ugly stuff so that we can have the most beautiful.
Breaking the cycle, man. That's so heavy, so important, right? I mean, and it's hard.
Yes.
It's hard. I mean, some of the cycles are good. We don't want to break them.
Correct.
But a lot aren't.
You know, there's information, there's transformation, and then there's demonstration. And for me, just personally, I want them to say, and my kids to say, Daddy was a walking, talking, living demonstration of the stuff he talked about. He didn't just know stuff. He was living it. Right? I kiss my kids probably 20 times a day. And now it's the whole game where they're like, oh, you can only get your daddy hug, but you can't get your daddy kiss, or you got to tickle us first, or you got to throw us, or we got to jump on the trampoline, or whatever the thing is. But like, for me, to me, that's our job. Like, is to look and go, well, what would I have wanted? What would I have desired if I had the consciousness and the understanding to speak to it as a child? And my dad he was really good at saying, I'm proud of you, I love you. And, you know, my dad kissed me on the lips till I was 15 years old. And until my friends were like, oh, you guys are faggots? Like, you know, and then I became self-conscious of it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe he shouldn't be doing that. But like, I want my kids and their nervous systems to be built in such a way that they feel safe in the world. Because safety is the key to creativity. It's the key to love. It's the key to everything.
It's that unconditional love you want them to feel, right? Mm-hmm. That's, yeah. It's a hard one too. It's
big.
Yeah.
Big.
You know, one of the things you said a minute ago when you were talking about being direct with people was about you help them see the world as it is. And they get to separate, and you said this before the break too, they get to separate and decide what they want to keep and what they don't want to keep. Mm-hmm. And you talked about marketing and how we, like, I think a lot of people, they hear a message enough times and they assume it's true. Mm-hmm. Burger King, McDonald's, like you were saying earlier, right? Like and not to, you know, I don't want to call anybody out in particular, but marketing broadly, that's their job. Their job is to sell something. And so, but we don't always take it in through that filter, particularly when you're young. Right?
Yep. That's the, okay. So, I've been going to Tanzania building clean water wells with my wife for about 10 years. And one of the things that I love about being in the bush and seeing how they operate is that they don't have all that marketing in their space. They don't have billboards. They don't have things telling them what they aren't. And so I'll never forget, it was like the 5th village we went to, deep in the bush. They have no water. But they greeted us singing this song, Asante, Asana, Asante, Asante, Sana, which is like, thank you for coming. You are welcomed here in our home. And it was so beautiful because they had, their clothes were all tattered and stuff like that. But I was looking at them and I'm like, you are richer than me.
Yeah.
You stand in a regalness. You don't know you're poor. You don't know you're supposed to feel a certain way about yourself. You don't have imposter syndrome because that hasn't been introduced into your culture. And, you know, I was watching regular TV the other day in Vegas because I don't gamble, and we just had a moment where we were just in the hotel. And I swear to God, in like probably a 30-minute time frame, I saw about maybe 10 to 15 drug commercials, right? Take Ozilic, da-da-da-da, and it's like the person, and then the next commercial is like, take this, and side effects are you could die, and maybe you'll bleed to death, and all these things. And I'm like, the whole thing is marketing. Even Vegas is a big outward show. It's the macro of the micro that we have here. One of the things, and I know you live there, that I loved when we first moved here, I moved and lived on the lake, on Lake Austin. in Westlake. So we lived off 360, and there's this big church and then the elementary school here, and we lived in the back. Matthew McConaughey lived right here, and I lived right here. It was beautiful. And I didn't even know. Like literally, we were there for a month and a half, and I was like, something's different. And I was talking to a friend back in LA, and they were like, what is it? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel calmer. And you guys have driven down 360. There's no billboards. It's just a lot of trees. There's even a mall, an entire gigantic mall that I did not know was there for like 6 months because there's no big sign that says Barton Creek Mall. Think about it.
Yeah.
Drive by there again and see if
Wow.
you see a sign. There is none. It's trees.
You kind of just blew my mind because I've literally never. There's signs for businesses.
Even that is
But,
pushed back.
Right, but there's no. But you're right. There's no billboards.
None.
I've never thought about that till now.
Zero.
Did you know that you lived over there? Did you?
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that?
I lived just across. I lived on the inside of the part of the loop. You're on the outer part of the loop. I
Mhm.
was on the inside of the loop, just over. So yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, no. The only thing that bothers me now is the construction. Like it's like LA now. It's got like the next 10 years of construction. But it'll be soon. It'll be before it. But yeah, no, you're right. There's no billboards at all along that road. Yeah.
And I didn't realize what was happening to me, but it was the pollution that was missing. I was like, oh my God, I'm just seeing trees every day. And like, interesting.
Did you ever see that movie Ready Player One?
Yes.
There's this one little like cut scene that it goes right past you, and the guy, the evil villain guy's like, we figured out in the glasses how to maximize advertising just before the point you give him a seizure. We can get 70% coverage or whatever it was, and it was just like, oh man,
That's literally.
and it's just a really quick like little snippet, but I was like, wow, that's like, ouch, ouch.
That's it. So it's, again, you can't intervene in a world you can't see. You cannot disown that which you've never owned. And so once you start seeing yourself, and then you start to look at the other worlds, right? Even marriage. Marriage is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Harder than all the things we already talked about. And the big piece is how can I find her and like re-meet her, 11, 12 years in, just see her differently.
12 years in right now.
Yes.
That's great.
Right. And to like rediscover my wife and take her out of the box and the history I have for her, and to re-enter the room when I'm mad and all the things, even just emotionally, right? A lot of times we stay in the room, but we're not in the room, right? And I'm doing the thing. And like, marriage has been the biggest workshop for me in the whole world.
You guys work together.
Yes, and we work together. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
That's
though.
hard.
Yeah, it is.
How long you been working? You've been working together a long time. It sounds like.
Since 2013.
How did you guys meet?
Oh man, it is the craziest movie story ever in the history. Everybody who hears it is like, what? Oh my God, it was ridiculous. But I'll give you the cliff notes. I was at a party in Venice Beach, and this new thing comes out. There's 14 of us at the party, and this woman at the party says, oh, I just started doing this new thing called human design. And everybody's like, oh, what is it? So they all do it. And then I text my mom. I'm like, what time was I born? Let's see. Right? So the woman does my human design. I'm the last one. She's like, oh my God, this is interesting. One, you have all of your brain lines lit up. This is very unusual for people because most people just have like one line in their brain, but yours can move really fast and take a lot of information and do stuff with it. She was like, two, and this is even more interesting given that you're Preston Smiles, the guy who runs the love mob, and I was doing these organized acts of love, and I was already popular and like on my path at this point. She says, the way I'm interpreting this, it's basically saying you won't be as powerful and as big as you could without your counterpart. That you are meant to have a counterpart.
Is this your future wife telling you this?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Okay. I was just checking. I was just checking.
Yes. This is this random person.
Okay.
Right. So I take that in. Right. Like I take most things in, and I'm really like, oh God, that was interesting. I wasn't thinking about having a wife in that moment, but okay, I'm 30, 31, 32. Interesting. Okay. So next day, skateboarding down Venice Beach. I see this guy out with a didgeridoo, just classic Venice Beach stuff. And his name is Richard. And I pull up and he's like, what's up, P? What's up, Richard? It's like, man, what you been up to? He's like, oh, man, I just got certified in this thing called human design. Have you done it? And I'm like, nope. I lied because I wanted to see if it was bull crap, right? So he says, oh, man, you know what time you were born? And I'm like, yeah, I can give it to you.
You happen to know right now.
Yes, I know exactly.
I just talked to my mom about it.
Yes. So he does the thing and he's like, oh. And he's going through the thing and then he's like, this is interesting. I'm like, what? It's like, well, the way I'm kind of seeing this, and these things are all up to interpretation, is that like there's a person out there for you. I'm like, okay, bro. Thanks for sharing. Interesting. So I go about my day. At that point, I had been reading Conversations with God religiously over and over and over again. And I got to a point where he was talking about relationships and the utility of them and all these different things. And I'm like, okay, that's 3. That's 3. So
do you need a 2x4?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So now I'm like, all right, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right. My whole life has been guided like this, including when my friends got shot. Like there's all these things where I'm like, why are these puzzle pieces moving their way into the space? And so I make a decision that I'm going to do 6 months of celibacy and I'm going to open myself to calling in the one. So I take off all masturbation, everything. Everything's off the table. Me, my smoothies, my surfing, my mission, just in. And 6 months go by, I come out of it. I start dating people here and there. And while I've going on dates, I get a message on Facebook from a dude who I have not spoken to for years. And he says, hey, Preston, I'm in London. And I'm meeting up with my friend's girlfriend. She is awesome. You do all of these things and help people in the name of love and do flash mobs and all that stuff. She does clean water wells in Africa and is awesome and a powerhouse. And she's dating my friend, so this is not that. But I think you guys should work together. Can I put you in a message? I said, oh, yeah, of course, bro. Put us in a message. So he puts us in a message. I click on her profile. I'm like, oh, she's beautiful. Interesting, right? But she's in London and she's dating this dude, so not my girl. So I message her, hey, nice to meet you. If you're ever in LA, hit me up. She writes back, yeah, nice to meet you. And I send her my number and I'm like, X, Y, and Z. She ghosts me, not a single word. So now let's call it a month goes by and I have a blind date set up with this girl named Eva. So the morning of the blind date, 6 a.m., I'm sleeping, bang, I wake up and I instantly know I'm going to meet my wife soon. So I go on Facebook and Instagram. This is still, to this day, this is still on both of those pages. I screenshot a picture of 2 wolves kissing and I put it on there. I have no clue who this is going to be. And I say, I can feel her coming. Hashtag wifey, hashtag the queen is on her way. No clue. 6 a.m. Now, I had bought tickets to a show, a poetry show in Venice Beach. I was living in Hancock Park at the time, so these are not close to each other. And Eva comes. It's now, the show starts at 7:30. She shows up at my door, let's call it at 7. Knocks on the door. I'm like, oh man, is this the moment where I meet my wife? Knock, knock, knock. I go down, I open the door, I look, and I'm like, nope, that's not my wife. Instantly. I'm like,
wow,
that ain't it. So I invite her upstairs. And I was in a class called The Power of Prayer at that point because I was studying to be a minister under Church of Religious Science at that time. I have a lot of overlaps, crazy stuff. So in the class, we were taught to, before any decision, to just ask. So I leave her in the living room. I go in my room. I say, hey, God, am I supposed to go on this date? Resounding yes. Yes. Now I go back. Hey, God. Now I'm reasoning. Hey, God. But for real. Because this ain't it. Like, why am I going on this date? Right? Like, come on, right? Yes. Again, clear. I know. You know. We all know. You have hits in your body and moments where it's like, this is not even negotiable. This is a yes. So I'm like, damn. Okay. Get dressed. Jump in the car. We're driving. And every red light on Lincoln Boulevard, I hit. And I'm like, what is happening? So now we're late. Every single red light. And I had done a video on YouTube talking about the people at 9/11 who missed their flights. The people who left the Trade Center because they were sick. and they didn't go to work that day.
Yep.
And so I had this moment where I was like, oh man, something's happening. Something is happening. I don't know what it is, but I surrender. So we get out of the car, we run over to the thing. They say, hey, we're sorry. We oversold the show by 10 seats. We can give you your money back. You can come back tomorrow, or you can go in. And I look at her and she says, let's go in. Okay. So we walk in, they pass us to another guy. The guy starts walking us in. The whole thing is packed. There's people all on the side of the wall. He walks us past those people to the front. And he says, you two right here. He takes 2 steps. He stops as if a lightning bolt hit him. And he says, actually, you two, come here. He takes 2 seats and he puts them. He says, this is a fire hazard. So if anything happens, I need you to jump up really quickly. Okay. He puts 2 seats down on the front row. Puts my seat here. My date seat's here. I sit down. She sits down. I look at the stage. I look at my date. And right next to her, my wife. And I have a moment where I'm like, Alexi? And she's like, Preston? And I'm like, yes. And I'm like, but you live in London. She's like, no, I live in LA. I just moved here. And I'm like, wait, what? And then instantly my mind goes, whoa, 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 whoa. And then I see the wolves kissing and I'm like, and then I'm like, oh my God. And then literally the show happens. Now, a little bit of backstory. The dude she was dating, who is a superstar actor right now, he's been on HBO shows. He was in Top Gun. If I say this person's name, you might know him. But if you look him up, you would definitely know him. This guy missed his flight. And so his friend, his best friend, picked her up from the airport, who was my college roommate. He missed his flight. They hung out. He put us in a message. Because he missed his flight, I got a wife. And so that's even deeper into the like rabbit hole. And then she had tickets to the Saturday night show, but her friend Felicia booked a role on TV and said, can you switch me? So now it's like the whole world put us right next to each other.
Did you switch seats with Eva?
No.
Just had to ask.
She tried to kiss me at the end of the night. And I said, I genuinely think I just met my wife. And she's like, okay. And I did.
I wonder what story she's telling today on a podcast.
She's the influencer, and she's like, we've talked before. She follows me. She follows my wife. She has 3 kids. She got her person. I got mine.
That's
so,
great.
Yeah.
It's great that you guys keep up about that too. Like, what a great story.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. She didn't even think, I knew it was my wife. Alexi did not know that we were supposed to get married. She thought it was a business deal. So like
How long until you started dating after that?
It took about 2 months. But we just were hanging out with each other every day. She had 3 different guys, including, there was this superstar model back in the day named Tyson Beckford. Do you guys know who that is? He was
The name sounds familiar.
Ralph Lauren model. He's been on Oprah and all those things. So this other superstar actor guy, and then this other dude, all 3 of them and me, the skinny broke dude who had just moved in with his mom, all of us wanted her at the same time. And each of us knew about each other. And I just was like, this is it. And like, she could have went with the money and the fame and all that, but she felt it. We knew. And, at some level, I'm richer and more, it happened anyway. She got everything,
So you have a history. I mean, there's a thread through this
Mm-hmm.
of following God, your heart, your instinct, whatever you want to call it, right?
That.
All the above.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is this back to your dad saying, when everybody says go left, you go right? Where'd this come from? How did you get this, I guess, faith?
Yes, that's the origin of listening beyond personality. My dad taught me something indirectly that he did not know he was teaching me, which is listening beyond the personality and what's occurring in the moment. He taught me to globally listen, to like listen with the heart, listen with the body, listen with because we know that we are not that voice because we can't stop the voice. And so I can, to this day, distinguish between the wounded part of myself that says you are this and you're not this and you could be better at this and X, Y, and Z, and the still small voice that is the truth of my being. And when that thing comes forward, it's not halfway. Like I can, this is a muscle too. I've trained a muscle to be able to listen to it. And, if you've heard my story before, it's happened so many times that there's no way it's not a thing for me.
Yeah.
And so now it's just about, okay, how much am I willing to listen? Again, we started this by me saying I didn't listen. It got me to the dance. And then once I got to the dance and I started seeing all the fame and the money and all that stuff, I got intoxicated by this part of me that wanted to control it from the personality and like wrap a business around it and make it something. And that's not wrong or bad, but the thing that is the magic was the other thing. And so I've been slowly and powerfully reintroducing that aspect of me back into the space. And the proof is in the pudding, because to me, this is a big message I have for everybody. The fruit does not belong to the tree. The fruit belongs to the ecosystem. Our job is to produce the fruit for the sake of this beautiful dance and these happenstance. If you come under my tree or I come under yours, out of 8 billion people in an entire world, I get to swim in your energy and your gifts and talents and abilities. Oh my God, that's a miracle. And so, okay, so I really have one job, and that is to make my tree as healthy as possible and to trust in the seasons of life, because the farmer never, gets, a season and goes, oh, it's over. Let's burn the whole thing down. The farmer knows exactly what's going to happen. If I keep watering, weeding, and feeding these crops, it will produce again and again and again. This is the story of the golden goose, right? Like, I got to get it out now.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people listening, and some of them are probably thinking, like, how do I get under Preston's tree? Like, and it sounds, we talked at the break a little bit. There's a number of ways to do that.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to, whether it's read your book or if they want to listen to your podcast or if they want to be a part of one of your groups or talk to you individually, like anything's on the table,
yes.
Right? And so how does someone find you?
Yeah, at Preston Smiles on anything, but the best place would be prestonsmiles.com because you can kind of be directed anywhere from there.
And it's really for anybody. I mean, it's not a lot to listen to the podcast. It's time, right? And to read the book, which, and there's more coming, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
What is it like to be a part of you talked about the Spiritual Academy a couple times. Like, take me through it. What's that like?
Yeah.
I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful because we are social beings.
Yep.
So a lot of people think they can just listen to podcasts and read books and their life will be different.
Yeah.
But left to our own devices, we will always go back to homeostasis. We'll always go back to the devil we know and where we're comfortable.
Yep.
The times where that doesn't occur is when we are in scenarios where we are held accountable and we are in proximity to people who are moving in a direction that we desire. So in the Spiritual Millionaire Academy, I have, a curriculum, an 8-week curriculum. But outside of the curriculum, there's the community. There's the weekly coaching and accountability. Right? I coach people on stuff and we'll put them on challenges, 7-day challenges. And then we say, okay, we'll meet back here on Tuesday. Did you do what you said you would? And if you didn't, what got in the way? And what do we need to do to support you? Right? We had a woman this past Tuesday, Anna, in Argentina. She's been smoking for 30 years. And she's on week 2 of no smoking. And the reason why that's working is because she still has to come back to the class. And if she comes back and says, I smoked a cigarette, we say, okay, Anna, what do we need to do here? Because that's not who you are. That's who you became. And that's the marketing. Fuck those cigarettes. Are you going to let the cigarettes win? What do we need to do? Right? I had her post a picture of herself eating a vegetable for 7 days in a row, every day, a vegetable or a fruit. And that level of accountability inside of this group produces. That's how I got where I am. I didn't do this by myself. Every step of the way, I have put my money into things. I moved in with my mom at 33 so that I could use the money to invest in support. That's why I moved in with her.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I'm spending $2,700 on an apartment in Hancock Park. What if I take that whole $2,700 and every single month I'm in somebody's space who knows something? And I started gathering, and then I became my own environment, like all of us in this room.
And then you bought your mom a house and brought
Correct.
her into your environment, which is
Correct.
a really great part of the story.
Correct. Yeah, I brought my mom at 70 years old. My mom got her first ever brand new house.
Yeah.
And it was quite the feeling to walk into a place and say, this is yours now.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's awesome. We have to wrap this up soon. I think we have time, but from a selfish standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I've been working on somewhat successfully for months is asking God, asking the universe
Mm-hmm.
what I should. This is probably my single biggest takeaway from plant medicine and ayahuasca journeys
Mm-hmm.
is everything came down to, hey, dummy, if you just ask,
Yes.
I'll tell you what to do. And all you got to do is do it. Like, life's pretty simple if you just do that.
Yes.
But that's much easier said than done,
Correct.
right? So you seem to have figured this out. So I have experimented. I've been asking this question for
Mhm.
months, as
Oh,
John
yeah.
can attest to.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't quite figured out. I'm better at it. But
Mhm.
I'm looking for tips. I'm looking for shortcuts, cheat codes, the
Mhm.
80-20.
Mm-hmm. For what?
How do you, I don't know, you get this feeling, you listen, you're
Mhm.
open to it, right?
Mhm.
Some of it's just being open to it. I
Yes.
think I'm open to it, but I'm not very good at asking and slowing down. How do you do that?
Yes. Okay. Well, the short answer is you schedule it into your life. It's not just a convenient thing that occurs when it occurs. It's, nope, 9 a.m. Let's go. That's one. Two, again, some people come to me, a lot of people come to me, they say, I want to go from here to here. And I say, okay, well, let's talk about where you currently are so we know what we're dealing with. And a lot of times, and I'll use the sort of example of, a lot of times people are in the ocean, capsized. They can see the land, but they are capsized. And they come to me at the capsized moment and say, how do I get over here to building a mansion on the land? And I say, let's just get back to shore.
Yep.
Shore is the goal for right now. We know the mansion's coming. But right now, you are doggy paddling and running out of breath. So, first things first, get yourself in such a high vibrational state that whether you get it or don't, you're good to go. That is the key, is good with, good without, because I'm so full, I'm so high on my own supply that it doesn't even matter. To me, that is the crux of what I'm sort of supporting people. And then what happens, which is crazy, is when you don't need it, don't care anymore, it makes it 1,000 times easier to just flow into your space. So, okay, next question. How do you do that? Okay, I have my clients do something called joy alarms, where you put an alarm, 3 to 5 alarms in your phone. Every time the alarm goes off, you burst into spontaneous joy. Now, one, it just feels good and is awesome. Two, it recalibrates and tells your nervous system that there is something to celebrate.
That is cool. So just 5 times a day, I'm being grateful.
Just bursting. Now, I've had clients, the goal is reasonless joy. However, I've had clients who had 3 kids, a wife, and a dog. And I say, okay, perfect. Each alarm is a kid, a dog, and a wife. Okay? The alarm goes off, you go to that kid. Oh, Jason. Oh, my sweetheart. He's so crazy. Oh, he's so beautiful. And it's not just thinking, because we are in and out beings. Right? We take water in, water comes out. We take food in, food comes out. We need to use our voice, our bodies. Everything needs to emote because we're recalibrating the nervous system to something that is healthy. From that baseline, now we're on shore. Now I'm here. Anything I build from here is going to be magic. And even if it isn't, I'm magic, so it doesn't matter. that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like you
I love
have
it.
to get to the point where you don't give a fuck because you're so high.
I love it.
Yeah.
Or you don't know any better, which is the people you talked about in
Yes.
Africa who just, they were wealthier than any of us.
Correct.
Because they didn't know any better not to be.
Correct. Because their baseline is already there.
Yeah.
So it's like,
There's a lot to
oh,
learn there.
yeah, we can go get some stuff, but
Stuff.
let me just say this last thing. When I was in the woods by myself, there was these different ant mounds, and I would observe them all day. And I had a moment where I was like, first of all, there was so many cool things that happened. Like, at one point I watched this little baby worm come up, and then there was like one or two ants over here, and one of them sensed. They did not see the worm, they sensed it. And you could feel they're like, oh, there's food somewhere, and they're going around. And then he found the worm, but he's not big enough. But whatever signal he sent, another one sensed it. And I'm watching this. I have nothing but time, so I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, right? Then the whole army, nobody goes back to get each other. This is literally, they're all sensing together, right? Somebody's signal goes off here, signal. Boom, everybody's eating the ant, right? But while that's occurring, I'm also watching all these different mounds. And I'm like, this is us. They're in this mound, and they got their Gucci purses and their nice clothes and all the things. But all it takes is one of these branches falling. Bam. They're all gone. It's stupid. It's meaningless. They think that those bags and that thing means something. And they can, because it makes it not boring. But like, let's be real with each other. That's stupid. So then what matters in this thing? Right? What matters is how I'm living moment to moment. Because that can ripple into eternity. And I just started going, oh, okay, this is us. So I'll take all the toys, right? I got a G-Wagon. I got a 68 Stingray. I got a 65 Chevy C10. I got the big house. I got all the toys. I'll take it. Let's freaking go. It's going to be trash one day anyway, or it belong to someone else. Or I'm going to pass it to my kid. I don't give a damn in that sense, because it's going to not matter when I'm in the grave. What matters is how I'm being in those things. Those cars and those things don't make me awesome. I'm the awesome thing. I bring the life into them. That to me makes someone rich. It makes them a spiritual millionaire, because when I had the Prius, that's how I felt. Right? Teaching surf lessons. Winning. Look at me. I eat every day. Hang out with friends.
So for a guy who's so focused, and you do a great job of being present right here in the moment, what does the future have for you? Like when you look out ahead and you look at your source of hope in the future, what are the things that you're thinking about 5-10 years from now?
It's all the small things for me. Like I want to be the basketball coach, and I want to be at ballet, and I want to be, in the details of my kids' lives. And I'm in the process of setting up a scenario where I have so much FU money that I just make everything free. And I set up pods where I can be an elder. I think a lot of people just never got the conscious dad that they needed.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the wiser I get, the more I'm like, that's my job. Right? I know I still look young, whatever you want to call that, but like I'm closer to 50 than I am 30, right? Or even 40. So I'm heading in the direction.
And yet
so,
you look closer to 30 than 50, you bastard.
I've been working on it. Yes, that's the crazy part. It's nuts, man. It's nuts. Yes, that's the piece. I've been working on it, right? Everything we're talking about here is not theory for me.
Yeah.
People come to my house, they come hang out, they're like, dude, you actually live this shit all the time. Jacked up stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
Like my life isn't quote unquote perfect, but it's perfectly mine. And I see the beauty in it.
Yeah.
As people get to the end, they're like, yo, I just wish I argued more, I cried more, I played more, I just was full. Oh, I'll just do that now. I'll listen to your wisdom and do it now.
Preston, this has been amazing, man. I got to tell you, like, just absolutely amazing. I hope we can have you back at some point.
Yeah.
I hope you, as a listener, get a chance to go check out the book, check out the website, check out the social media, check out the programs. I mean, just amazing. You know, obviously, day one meeting you, looking forward to a hopefully very long relationship of
Yes.
getting to know each other. And what an honor for us to have you here.
Definitely.
Thank you.
It was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Been really cool, man. Thank you so much. Again, it makes a difference who you are. Again, I've been on hundreds and hundreds of podcasts, and everybody's on their journey and they're all doing the best they can. But because you all in this room have so much lived experience and you can tell you love yourselves and your lives, it makes a difference in the quality of question. It makes a difference in the conversation. Because we can only go as deep as somebody can actually hold, right? And so thank you to every single one of you. I know the listeners get it, but just hear it from somebody outside who's stepping in. You've found the right people, right? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and birds of a feather often always flock together. And so I'm sure you're subscribed. I'm sure you've left reviews, but if you have not, do so, because this is the type of podcast and the type of transmission that needs to go everywhere.
Thank you.
Thanks, Preston.
It's been an honor.
Yeah.
PrestonSmiles.com for more of this wisdom.
And we're going to work on the calendar, bring him back. All right, everyone, talesofabundance.com. You can find the show notes. You can find links to all this stuff. And, like, subscribe, check us out, and click through to Preston. Thanks, everyone.